the state of New Mexico has charged Alec Baldwin for the fatal shooting of Helena Hutchins on the movie set of Rust in New Mexico, October 21st, 2021. The allegation here is that he recklessly handled the firearm because he pointed it at cinematographer Helena Hutchins and pulled the trigger while the hammer was cocked. The Rust armorer in charge of the weapon, Hannah Gutierrez, has already been charged, tried, and sentenced in this case to the maximum potential sentence of 18 months. And the defense, as we heard in opening statements, said Alec Baldwin is the shiny object. He was an actor acting. Everyone else was in charge of making the weapons safe. And when it was handed to him, it is his job to act. And in the world of movie sets, things that might be reckless in the real world are part of movie magic. Yes, they said movie magic in their opening statements. What an interesting morning in court on only day 2 of the state of New Mexico versus Alec Baldwin. There were a lot of hiccups this morning, including almost an hour, it seemed, at sidebar arguing over foundation of a few pages of script. Though once they started asking the crime scene technician about those few pages of script from the movie Rust, it seemed that the shot that they were talking about was a camera movement to go close up on Alec Baldwin's character Rust, slowly cocking the hammer back on the gun. It said quietly and slowly in there as best as I recall, because then everything devolved. But we are going to hear from script supervisor Mamie Mitchell, who will be in a really good position to talk about what shot exactly they were blocking out and what Baldwin, the actor, was supposed to be doing in the moments leading up to the fatal shooting of Helena Hutchins. Then things devolved. We got into a very extended and long back and forth over the search of PDQ arm and prop, whether every single box was searched, whether live rounds were found, whether every live round was taken out of PDQ arm and prop. This is all going to go towards, the defense said very pointedly, you just wanted to get through this so that the prosecution could just focus on Alec Baldwin, and the crime scene tech said no. But we know that that's kind of what the defense is arguing, right? You just with all these other people. You just wanted to get to Alec Baldwin. She's like, no. And then the defense asked, you don't think Alec Baldwin committed a crime sitting here. Carrie Morrissey's objection wasn't an objection to that. It was an exasperated, Your Honor, please. I'm not exaggerating. And then the judge said, don't do that. There's no objection. There's no sustained. There's no overruled. It is, Your Honor, please. And don't do that. What is happening in this courtroom? There were supposed to be rules. The judge is like, I'm in charge of this courtroom. I'm in charge now, Phasma. I'm in charge. I'm the captain now. The court's like, I'm in charge of this courtroom. And 3 questions into cross-examination yesterday, and that all flew out the window. And now we are back to the attorneys sniping at one another. Carrie Morrissey saying whatever she's going to say, and it keeps throwing the defense off. And so that is going to be a very interesting thing as we move forward. It is already exhausting to watch. I'm sure it's exhausting for the jury, and we will see.
We did not ask witnesses questions regarding this type of harm and what was learned, and certainly those kinds of things might have been able to come through Ms. Popple. And so, and again, we did not do jury selection on this, which we absolutely would have. We didn't open on this because of the ruling and the way that we understood it based on our review of the transcript. So I do have concerns that this is going to prejudice the defense, and we would ask that the court consider not allowing
attention to my ruling, because my ruling was with respect to witnesses, because I particularly told Ms. Morrissey that her witness got to ask her witness one sentence. And that is because Mr. Carpenter was really opinionated about that blanks can kill in the grand jury, and I did not want to move away from the fact that they weren't blanks.
She said
it
what
was
she
live
said.
ammunition.
She
but
said what she
this
said.
goes to Mr. Baldwin's state of mind, completely different, and I'm going to let this in as well. Page 15,
I
1 through 4.
said what I said.
Lines 1.
Did you hear her? Maybe you should have paid better attention to my ruling.
I'm 63 years old with 6 kids. I can't rely on luck anymore. He's talking about his career.
Walking
and that he
out?
can't rely on luck anymore. This goes exactly.
I'm sorry. What? Sir, the court said you had to be here. Look at Spiro's face. He's talking to his lawyer and then just gets up and leaves? He's not allowed to walk out, chat. What the is happening?
The trigger of the gun. I'm 63 years old with 6 kids. I can't rely on luck anymore.
Look at Spyro.
He's talking about his career and that he can't rely on luck anymore. This goes exactly to his motivation not to tell the truth. Son.
Can we approach briefly?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, my client needs to use the restroom. Walked out of court. He said something to his other attorney and then walked out. Oh my God. You can't just walk out of court. He didn't get tackled by a bailiff. So he's really, really, really lucky, because in most courts, you are going to get tackled by court deputies. The fact that he didn't is probably because he is an out of custody defendant and an older gentleman. But this is wild. He can't just walk out. At the end of what feels like an exceedingly long day 2 of the Alec Baldwin trial, the jury took 2 hours for lunch so the attorneys could argue motions over really Alec Baldwin's interview with police and what would be redacted out of that interview with police. It seems that the prosecution intends to play that interview tomorrow. Now they're going to take this matter up tomorrow morning on day 3 before they play that in court. But the central issue, as I see it, was that the defense thought that any mention of Alec Baldwin in that interview about knowing blanks were dangerous or knowing things were dangerous was going to be kept out. But when the court was ruling on that motion in limine before trial, the court was talking about expert witness testimony, not the defendant's interview. And the defense was like, what? We didn't voir dire on it. We didn't talk about it in opening. We would have done those things. And the court said, well, you should have paid closer attention to my ruling. So those statements of Baldwin will come in. I'm very surprised that surprised the defense. That seemed like a clear ruling to me. So after that, Baldwin on the record, and the court had told his attorneys he needed to be in court for the motion hearings. While the court was still on the record, Baldwin walked out. The jury was not there. The court was on the record, and he walked back in later with coffee. The judge did not seem pleased at sidebar, but she was not pleased with the lawyers anyway. So what that not pleased is related to, we don't know. Did she say anything to Baldwin about it on the record? No, she didn't. But then everything just kind of continued off the rails as trial kept going this afternoon, and then smoothed out a little bit as we got back into later witnesses. But what was so wild was we started hearing testimony about a mystery Good Samaritan who brought live ammunition to the Santa Fe Sheriff's Department and said, these were given to me by Seth Kinney. Seth Kinney has fooled you. And these rounds are the rounds that were in a green ammo can. But now in testimony, we're starting to see that that green ammo can ties back to information from Thel Reed, who was formerly friends and maybe a mentor to Seth Kinney. Of course, Thel Reed being Hannah Gutierrez's father. So the Good Samaritan turns out to be one of Thel Reed's good friends. And when they took those rounds from the good friend, those were not the same type of rounds that were recovered from the set of Rust. The rounds on the set of Rust recovered from Alec Baldwin's bandolier, from the cart, from Jensen Ackles' bandolier, and the rest of it. Those were different than the ones brought by the Good Samaritan, supposedly from PDQ Arm and Prop. I don't think we've heard the last about those mystery rounds that appeared after Hannah Gutierrez's conviction. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.